Welcome to the midweek mailbag, part 2, try 2, attempt 2. It is week 3.
Attempt 7.
Attempt 7, really. It's been a technology day, so if you're hearing this, that means it all worked out in the end. My name is Jeremy Reisman. I'm the producer over at Pride of Detroit. You can find me at Detroit Online on Twitter. With me, as always, to help break down your Detroit Lions questions is the managing editor of Pride of Detroit, is the machine, is at Erik Schlitt on Twitter. It's Erik Schlitt. Buddy, you hanging in there after a long day here?
Yeah, I'm impressed we've made it to this point in the show. We haven't made it this far on our other attempts, so fingers crossed here. Fingers crossed.
Well, assuming this all goes as planned, if this is your first time listening to a midweek mailbag, it's very simple. You send us questions over on Twitter or X, use the hashtag AskPOD. You can send them anytime, any day of the week, but we put out a particular call usually on Tuesday mornings. We answer them. We answer them live, typically on Twitch and YouTube. More technology issues don't have us live on YouTube. I'm going to upload this to YouTube anyway, so my apologies to the live viewers on YouTube. Sorry you were left out this week. But anyways, let's just get into it. A lot of questions this week. A lot of angry questions this week because the Lions are obviously coming off a tough loss to the Buccaneers. And unsurprisingly, a lot of questions surrounding the offense. So that's going to kind of be the focus here. The first few questions here. First one comes from Marta Stan account. Asks, after the first 2 weeks, are teams doing anything special to take away the middle of the field of Goff? Is that why the efficiency hasn't been there?
No, I just think there's more zone from defenses right now. I feel like it's been increasing this season, or it seems like it has increased as opposed to previous seasons. And could be just time of the year where defenses are trying to, stay into some basic concepts, and that way they protect themselves against offenses. Or it could just be that it's kind of trending that way in the NFL right now. And so I do think the zones are part of it. We talked about the Rams in last week's episode about them wanting to kind of clog the middle up a little bit with more safeties, and Tampa's real creative in where they bring pressure and when they drop, and so they're all purposeful in their disguising, and so I really think it's just a lot more zone. And Tampa's a tough defense because of the scheme that they run.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think they've had that much issue getting open over the middle of the field. Like, maybe that deep middle has been an issue, and I think part of that is that was Josh Reynolds' role, and they're still kind of trying to figure that out a little bit. But I don't think the Rams particularly took it away. The Lions just didn't figure it out. And then against the Bucs, I mean, Amon-Ra caught 11 passes, many of which were over the middle. Like, I know he had 19 targets, but I don't know. In general, I don't think the middle of the field was that big of an issue last week. And go ahead.
Well, all 3 interceptions have been over the middle. That's kind of where I'm pointing in most of them, and they've all been the safeties coming up, out of their zones there and making. Obviously, the one of the 2 last week was egregious error on the ref, but still both the other 2 were dead middle of the field.
Right, but I mean, part of that too is just like that's where the Lions pepper the field, right?
Sure.
It's like they throw all over the middle of the field all the time, so chances are you're going to throw interceptions over the middle of the field. But like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like there aren't issues, but it's interesting because I think Dan Campbell pointed out the issue last week against the Bucs was more about the flats than it was the middle. Like the Bucs were coming down hard on the flats. Any type of swing pass they made, running off the edge, things like that, they had a lot of trouble with. And I know you had a lot of trouble with understanding the play calling there, right? Because the Bucs do have a very fast defense. They have, one of the best linebackers ever in Levante David, who's always a hassle to move around. And, maybe they're missing Antoine Winfield, but like they have some ballers there in the secondary. And I think there's we came into the week with this conception that, wow, the Bucs secondary is decimated. They were only missing Antoine Winfield. Like, that was it.
Yeah. The rest of it was just depth. Yeah, right. Like they were missing almost all their depth, but their starters were actually all there, save Winfield, of course.
Right.
Yeah, like it felt like they took the blueprint from what they did in the playoff game and tried to replicate it with
Yep.
new wrinkles, and some of those new wrinkles included screens and passes to the flat, uh, which don't work against the Bucks. And the fact that they ran what felt like 25% of their plays were screens and flats. I know that's not accurate, but it felt like it. Um, it was maddening. It was maddening to try and move laterally against a fast defense. Like you can't do that. And I know that the idea was we want to get the ball out quick. We want to put it into the playmakers' hands, let those guys get some yak. But I felt like they've avoided throwing over the middle and a lot and trying to get out into in both games this year.
Yeah.
And when they have gone over the middle, it's been not as beneficial. And so I just feel a little bit out of whack compared to what we've seen over the last 18 months, 2 years. And it goes a little against what we saw in training camp as well. They use the middle of the field quite a bit in training camp. Could be the Josh Reynolds trust factor, like you don't have a guy or you don't have that trust. It could be, hey, we're keeping extra guys in the block that would normally run it over the middle. It's hard to say there's just one catalyst. I feel like there's a lot of factors going in that have really stalled the production on offense.
Yeah. In general, I think I don't know, maybe this is just me trying to dry blanket, but I don't see the problem as drastic as a lot of people do.
Sure.
I mean they were productive between the 20s. Like when Dan Campbell goes out and says, "Yeah, that was an improvement from last week." He's not lying. They put up a ton of yards on offense. What, they went 3 and out 3 times against the Rams. They only punted twice against the Bucks.
Right.
And to me, like,
Right.
the offense is getting in a little bit of a rhythm. It's not perfect. It's horrible in the red zone, but working the middle over the field in the red zone is the hardest thing to do. That's what they need to figure out, and what they have figured out in years past, right? Fourth in red zone offense last year and second the year before, or vice versa.
Mm.
They'll get it figured out. And I know it's frustrating at this point when your offense is averaging about 20 points a game, and when they were averaging 27 or whatever in previous years, but it's early. And you also have to give credit to some of these teams, right? Like I know the Rams didn't look great against Arizona. Arizona presents a very different threat than the Lions do. But the Bucks have notoriously had a really, really good defense. Todd Bowles is a brilliant defensive coordinator. I know he's their head coach, but brilliant defensive mind. And so, like, let's just wait and see this one out until they start playing some bad defenses. And I think maybe Arizona isn't as bad of a defense anymore, but they're not a great defense. And so, to me, if they come out and struggle offensively this week, then the conversations need to start happening, I think.
You just played 2 of the probably 5 toughest teams on the schedule as well, right? Because if you think about the playoff teams from last year, obviously LA and Tampa, you have San Fran, Houston, Green Bay, Dallas. So that's you play almost all the NFC playoff teams, right?
Yeah, that's the perils of a first place schedule.
Exactly. And then I think the only AFC, did Jacksonville make the playoffs? I don't remember if they did or not. I don't think they did either. The Bills as
Sure.
well. So you've got 8 playoff teams on your schedule from last year, and you just played 2 of them. So these are on the top half of the tougher teams that you're going to face. And so, I it's not surprising that they lost one of these games, especially when you look around the league. Most teams in most of the NFL is 1-1
Right.
at this
There's
point.
4
Right?
undefeated teams or something like that.
I was
4 or 5.
I meant to look that up before. Yeah, but there's not many. And it wouldn't be surprising if all the undefeateds end.
Right.
Coming soon the way that the NFL is right now. So you play 2 tough teams, and you're not going to go undefeated. You're going to lose games here and there. And this one, it took overtime for the Rams, but you came away with the win. This one, you couldn't find a way to close it out, and that's going to happen. So I think not finding a way to close really was
Sure.
the catalyst, because they did move the ball, like you said, they did put up yards, they did find production. It's just they never found a way to shut that door
Yeah.
on the Bucks like they did the Rams.
Right. It really felt like when they converted that 4th and 1 with Jahmyr Gibbs kind of like end around run. Like it felt like that was it. Like, okay, they figured it out. They crashed through, and then yeah, more of the same. I mean, it's also worth pointing out that the Bucks last year had a top 3 red zone defense. It's not easy. They're not an easy defense to go against. But let's move on from that. Talk a little bit more about the offense here. K. Elliott Battle on Twitter asks, is Ben Johnson using less play action than he did early in the season last year? Seems like that's been the Lions' passing game bread and butter, and we are utilizing it less so far this year. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it's hard to tell through 2 games because it's such a small sampling size, especially with them playing a lot of shotgun against Tampa Bay.
Sure.
And I felt like that again was purposeful. And then out of the shotgun, they didn't run a ton of play action out of the shotgun. They usually run a lot of their play action with Goff under center. So that means they will run play action, but it's not their standard. So I would say it's lower than in previous years, but I also say the sampling size is probably a bit skewed because of how much they were in shotgun against the Bucks.
Right. Everything is skewed right now by game plan specific stuff, right? Like
right.
You're going to have
exactly.
a very specific game plan against the Cardinals this week. You're going to have one against the Bucks, one against the Rams. Now, I went in and looked at the data, and this is PFF data, so trust it at your will. Through 2 weeks, the Lions have a 28.6 play action rate. That's eighth most in the league. I shouldn't say best because
really,
yeah. Last year it was 26.4, so a little bit higher. But through 2 weeks last year, it was only 21.9.
Okay.
Now, if looking at the first 2 weeks last year, I mean, what were the first 2 games? The Chiefs and the Seahawks. They could have had very specific game plans to those teams. So,
yeah,
so far the numbers are actually very much on par with last year for the whole entire season. But I will say, I think you're right in that they've been in shotgun more. I haven't looked at the data necessarily at that in particular.
Yeah, I haven't either. I'm just talking feel. It feels like they've been more. Yeah.
And I would wager to guess Detroit is probably a more effective play action team when they're under center.
I feel like they are. And again,
This is feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is just us basically throwing data out there without actually.
Yeah.
But it makes sense.
Yeah, it's certainly. It seems like when you think of most of the plays that you can remember, like big running plays that they can break open, it's typically coming out from under center and handing the ball off when the backs are going downhill. When they're in shotgun and they do like that static handoff, it's usually ineffective.
Yeah.
And so I feel pretty confident in saying that they're more productive with play action under center. I mean, again, without even having to look it up, I feel pretty confident.
All right, next question here. Sticking with the offense, Jay-Z fighting the duopoly asks, what's going on with Sam Laporta? Defense is scheming him out. Is he now option 3 or 4 in the route trees? Change in routes he's running. Injury may be lingering from the preseason. Sam and Brock seem to be MIA lately.
Yeah, I felt like he blocked like almost all game. And I know he didn't, but again, this is like
we're going vibes again.
There was a lot of him staying into block in this game. And again, I could look it up to get the numbers of how many times he did, but it felt like on every play that they needed it, he was staying into block. When they're in the red zone and everybody's showing that one clip of JMO running the out and Goff trying to force that ball in there. Where was Laporta? He was blocking. Like he stayed in the block, right? You look at some of the screen passes that went nowhere. Where was Laporta? A lot of times he was in blocking because he's blocking the backside because the guards are pulling it, right? So I just felt like at key moments he's been blocking more than he has out as a pass catching option. And when you are in the red zone, you would think that is when you want him to cut loose.
Yeah.
He scored a touchdown against the Rams in the playoff game last year because they cut him loose in the
Yep.
red zone. And I feel like they haven't done it. Yeah, when he was massively injured with
Right.
his leg and he was going, and it just, I just feel like they haven't unlocked him yet. Now, could this be a same thing where Amon-Ra didn't get unlocked in week 1 and all of a sudden in week 2 he's got 11 catches, right? Could it be that this is a more, a better situation for him coming up in week 3? Um, I don't think it will be, but I think at some point you're going to turn him loose and you're going to have to just you're going to have to send him out on routes.
Yeah.
Now, without getting the cart in front of the horse here, I'll let you respond. Then I'll come back to what I want to say about the Cardinals.
Okay. There's two things here. Dan Campbell was on 97.1 The Ticket Tuesday morning and said for the first game, they were limiting him. They didn't want him to be a big part of the offensive game plan in terms of being a target because he was coming off the injury from training camp. And so, I mean, he went out there and said, he's like, we didn't want him to go out there, realize he can't handle that workload, and then 40% of our play, our plan, our offensive game plan was gone. They let him loose a little bit more in this game. I'm looking at the PFF splits, 75 total snaps, which is ridiculous because they ran 85 freaking plays on Sunday. 49 of those he was out running a pass route. 23 he was run blocking. Run blocking. And then three in pass protection. So not a ton, but I don't know. Like, I think Dan Campbell also mentioned they had a play dialed up for him in the red zone. It was just covered. But I think at least part of this answer is they're easing him in. He was injured in training camp. They kind of did the same thing to Jahmyr Gibbs in game 1 versus game 2. And so I think part of it is just like, this is a little mini ramp up period for Sam Laporta. It feels like they kind of took the shackles off last week against the Bucs. The production just didn't come, which again, like we can't do this every week where it's just like, well, this guy didn't get the receptions I wanted, so the offense sucks. This guy didn't get it this week. But at the same time, Sam Laporta is your all-pro tight end. Like, you do have to get him going. He has to be. If you're struggling in the red zone in particular, your 6'3" tight end is a good guy to look for. And so I'm with you. Like, if they're pinning Sam Laporta to the line of scrimmage in red zone snaps, like that is a waste of a snap for him.
The Bucs blitz around 30% of the time so far this year. Last year, it was up in the upper 40s, which is a little bit more standard. I don't know specifically what they were at against the Lions, but they do blitz a lot. The Cardinals do not. They're more middle of the pack. Last season, they were like bottom third, maybe bottom like 5. They blitz closer to 22%. And so if they're not going to blitz as much, maybe you don't hold Laporta in as much, and maybe you cut him loose at the same time. Arizona has some good coverage linebackers, which could, it's not really conducive to run a tight end against coverage linebackers as much. So he may get out on more routes. I don't know how productive he will necessarily be, though.
Don't love hearing that they've got good coverage linebackers, because to me, that's also been part of the problem here through 2 weeks, is that I know the Rams got rid of their best linebacker, and we all looked at that core as like, they're not that good, but they've been playing well, and like you mentioned, they got some safety help there too in the box.
If it makes it feel better, they cycle through their linebackers, and the one that they like rely on a lot is playing the worst of the bunch, and so there's opportunity.
All right, there you go. All right, let's fit in one more before we take our break here. From Tyler Reinelt. Asks, Brian Branch made a big play with an interception. What would you say the move to safety has overall improved the secondary, and does Detroit need to start being considered as having one of the best safety duos, maybe even trios in the NFL? I'm curious as to what you think here, because you and to be fair, a lot of Lions fans were among the biggest skeptics of this move, not loving taking him away from the line of scrimmage. Not that they're necessarily doing that, but they kind of are.
Right. They are dropping him down into the box and into the slot. I don't. Again, I could look the numbers up. I know it's not. I can tell you it's not as high of a percentage as it was in previous.
No, of course not.
So previous year.
Right.
singular. um, but I think the production or the results are there. Like he's
Yeah.
got 5 pass deflections and an interception.
Leads the league,
And
yeah.
look, you take it, right? Like that tells you it was probably a smart move. He'll tell you himself. He thinks that he has an opportunity to make plays on the ball more. And we all know Kirby has a really good ball skills, even though we haven't quite seen him yet. So I don't know if I'm ready to quite talk about them as being the best safety tandem, uh, but I think they're improved, especially if Branch is going to be consistently putting up stats like he has through 2 games.
Yeah. What I find really interesting about the Branch move is that I think the reason for it was something that I wasn't anticipating. Because when that happened, you and I, we broke down some film from late last year and like, oh, they're going to be in 5 DB sets all the time. They're going to be bringing Branch down and putting Iffy in. And maybe that is the plan once Iffy is healthy. But there has been 3 safeties on the field. You know how many times through 2 games so far?
None.
0.
Yeah.
0.
Yeah.
Like they are most. I think part of the reason for this is because they want to be in base defense so much this year. They don't want to be in nickel that much like they were last year.
Correct.
Amik has been playing less than 50% of the snaps so far. They are going 7-man fronts, 4 defensive backs. And if you're going to do that, Brian Branch has to play safety, right?
Right.
And like you said, I think the results speak for themselves. I think he's playing really well. I know he missed a bunch of tackles in week 1, but I think other than that, he was actually playing really well. And he played outstanding. He broke up a touchdown pass in against the Bucs that resulted in holding Tampa to a field goal. And so, I don't know for sure if they're like it almost feels though like Brian Branch and Derek Barnes were 2 turning points for this defense, and okay, because we like so much what Derek Barnes is doing, we kind of like these 5-man fronts, and because Brian Branch is so versatile, putting him at safety is okay, when we put those 2 together, that means 7-man fronts and 4 defensive backs, and we're going to run this a lot more than we did last year, and it's a big surprise to me. I don't know if it's surprising to you, but I did not see that coming. Even watching them as much as we did in training camp, I'm surprised by the amount in which they're in base.
I think really an underrated catalyst that makes all of that work is the versatility of Levi Onwuzurike.
Sure.
And I do think Josh Pascal was kind of set for that role in their original game plan. But Levi's ability to do what he does and flex from base end to 3 technique and be able to have starting level play at both, getting pressures, getting sacks, even though it was half sack or whatever. Right? But Levi is producing at a high level that's really just helping out that entire back 7 and in a lot of different ways. So, and that keeps them flexible. They have a lot of flexible pieces to switch their fronts. And so you're going to see situation, and then having Derek Barnes be flexible allows them to put him at the line of scrimmage. So you have 5 guys on the line, but also drop him back. And then you have 3 linebackers deep. In the Hutchinson article that I wrote this morning, breaking down his 5 sacks, 2 of them were heavily influenced by Derek Barnes not blitzing and dropping into coverage or shutting down an escape lane. And Barnes, even though he's not going to get credit for it in the box score, he was a pivotal guy at a pivotal spot in a couple of those plays that led to Hutchinson getting home. So a lot of flexibility up front, which, gives them that ability to run what they want on the back end. By the way, I looked up Brian Branch's splits per PFF. He has 50 snaps at free safety, 32 in the slot, 35 in the box. So at the linebacker level.
So he's just playing in the box almost.
And then 7 at the line of scrimmage as well. So even further up.
60-70% in the box still.
Yeah, he's still in that slot box area.
Yeah.
Like he's over half the time. So that's what we talked about when we did that film breakdown. He's
Right.
still going to be up there a lot. And I've seen Kirby has done that too. Like
Yeah.
Branch has been the guy who drops and they've dropped Kirby down. Like that's still part of what they want to do. They really want to throw a lot of guys at the front because what's their number one priority every time, every snap?
Stop the
Stop the
run.
run.
Yep.
And it's that's what they're going to
Well,
do, and that I expect this to continue.
before we go to break here, do you expect it to change once if he's healthy at all?
Not really. I mean, honestly, it would be a debate of do you want to play Iffy over Derek Barnes?
Right.
And I don't think the coaching staff wants to do that. I think the coaching staff wants to stay with their linebackers because
I do.
they love what they're getting out of
I
them.
do wonder if that would be a more sound game plan this week, though. When you have a guy like Kyler Murray out there, don't you want like as many fast guys out there? And not that Derek Barnes isn't fast, but like 5 DB sounds like a better plan than a front 7 against an electric runner like that.
I fully expect to see more Malcolm this week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you might have to with Alex Anzalone anyways, but yeah.
Yeah, right. And but I do think Malcolm would have been included regardless. Because what we saw, and again, Malcolm was playing a lot of Mike in these first 2 games.
Yep.
But he has that flexibility to play Will so you're probably going to have more Jack at the mic there, right? And so, but I do think Malcolm was going to get more involved. There are going to be situations where you may not see Jack Campbell on the field. You may see Malcolm at the mic and then Reeves Maben at the Will. You know what I mean? To try and add that speed element out there.
Yeah, Malcolm will just have to work with maybe tackling a quarterback who's on the loose. Rough.
But nice thing is Malcolm's not he's low to the ground too, so he's got that eye contact. They can make eye contact with each other.
I guess you know what, he's not going to slide as bad on the natural grass of Arizona. That's what I'm going for. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, more of your Lions questions as we continue on here, week 3 of the midweek mailbag. We'll be right back. All right. Thank you for your patience, everybody, including Erik. Sorry, again, if you jumped over here from YouTube. For some reason, Streamlabs doesn't think we have an Ultra account, so it's not letting us multi-stream. I checked my receipts, and I bought my Ultra account under a year ago, last October, so it should not have lapsed. Not sure why Streamlabs doesn't think we have an Ultra account, but we needed to get this off after our many tries, and shout out to Xfinity today, too, for effing up all of our plans in the middle of the day. So, anyways, let me thank some people, some subscribers here on Twitch, and then we'll get to some of your questions before we jump back into the show. So let me scroll back in case there was any in our show earlier today. Actually, there wasn't. So Shrugger, thank you for the 20 months. Says more demo is always the right call. He wasn't very effective on Sunday, though, to be quite honest. Seems like
who's that? Montgomery?
No,
that was purposeful. But I think the Lions wanted to get Jameer more looks.
Sure.
Because again, who was the more productive back in the playoff game? It was Jameer. He was more productive in multiple facets of the game, and I really think they just tried to hit the reset button and add a couple new wrinkles into their game.
Yeah, it did very much feel like a running back, because even if you look at like the pass run split, very similar. Like they passed a bunch in the first half of that divisional round game, and it did open up the running game in the second half. Like Jameer had like 70 yards in the second half, and it kind of played out the same way almost in this game too. Like Jameer was a big factor in the second half. It's just where they finished drives in the divisional round, they didn't this week.
They I think Goff had 30 completed passes in both games against Tampa last year.
Yeah.
35 35 in this one, right? So like
He attempted
it was
over 40
pretty
passes in
close.
both, right?
Yeah,
Which is way
44
more.
and 45. And
Yeah,
then yesterday was or like Sunday was
55.
50 55, yeah. So I that was one of my I said take the over on 23
Attempts or
completions.
completions, yeah.
Yeah, completions. I was like take the over on that thing.
How'd the rest of those work out?
I got one, I think. No, I got two.
Oh, you
The
got
only
two?
one I
Okay.
didn't get was no, no. I think Gibbs I fell a half yard short, which is but Laporta killed me.
It is kind of
'Cause-
frustrating, and I think I brought this up. I have brought this up a couple times before. Like, why haven't they been able to unlock Jahmyr Gibbs as a receiver quite yet? It feels like he should be further along than he is there. Like the way, I mean, you look at the way that Kamara was used, but again, like I think some of that goes back to being injured in training camp, where
I mean, he had 7 catches,
yeah, but for what, like 20 yards?
22.
That's nothing.
Because again, they tried to get his catches laterally.
Right. You
Can I get
you
a
just want
Texas
all
route?
Texas routes. I knew that.
Or my gosh, or
Wheels.
run a wheel, man.
Yeah.
Get him downfield. Like
Yeah.
if you get him downfield in space, he can just do everything. Like you don't need to put blockers in front of him. He needs less traffic.
Yeah, they need to figure out ways to get him in space, empty space, not space with blockers in front of him necessarily.
You don't need it.
Dan Pask, thank you for the 39 months. Says, oops, meant to send my message on this guy. Go Lions. Thanks, buddy. Schlesinger Smash, 26 months, subscribe to the channel. Says, no, watching the replay for me this week. Finally here for a live show. Smash. Appreciate you being here. And if you have any questions, that's part of the advantage of being here live is we'll answer some of your guys' questions in the break here. Caleb Whitwer, 23 months, says, is a midweek mailbag I'm able to attend. God is good, and let's fucking go. Hey, maybe there's a benefit to doing these in the prime time. You know, there is part of me that's like, I kind of wish I'd be winding down and not doing too much at this point, but you know what? Being with y'all ain't a bad consolation prize. Hamburgers, thank you for a Prime subscription. First time subscriber, appreciate that. Nick the Greek 100 bits says, what stalled out the machine this afternoon wasn't connected to Goff's failure to execute in the red zone. It was not the machine's issue. It was my machine's issue. And to be clear, I don't lay claim to Erik Schlitt, so when I say my machine, I'm not talking about him. Xfinity was just, I don't know, working on something or whatever. I don't know if it was a plan outage or whatever, but I had an outage for about 2 or 3 hours. Literally like right before we jumped to go on live, which was timely. Thank you.
Yep.
Laura, Laura just told me to shut my face. I said I don't lay claim to him. He's all yours.
I don't. She can do what she wants.
Nick the Greek, another 100 bits, says, still very confident about our chances this season because I know that Kirby Joseph is going to explode Justin Jefferson's knee and re-explode Jordan Love's knee. Okay. All right, Nick the Greek. Relax. 100 bits from Joshua Mercer says, it was also maddening to watch them try to get Gibbs in space on screens without Amon-Ra out there blocking the free defender. It was a little rough. JMO is a really good blocker for his size, but it was really rough to watch in the screen game. Yeah, JMO his eyes can get a little bigger than his stomach. Oh, I was about to talk about the night shows. There were a couple times, and I tweeted one of them where JMO was just like running 90 miles per hour at the guy he wants to block, and then the guy he wants to block just like sidesteps him in a second. The effort is there. I think sometimes he needs to know when to shift it down to second gear.
He's got to though. He only weighs like 12 pounds, so
It's
like
true.
he's got to get as much momentum going as possible.
And listen, like the block he threw in that Jahmyr Gibbs run on 4th and 1 was phenomenal.
Yeah, but again, if you get him in space, JMO will find someone to block.
Sure.
You know what I mean? He will, because he will be just running down there like a little kid on a playground, and he'll find someone.
Yeah.
So.
Joshua, I'm also mad about the refs, though, and the random cheap shot hits with the late hits. So during the game, I got really pissed after I settled and just contemplated the situation. They were good and bad. No freak out coming from me. Interesting. I didn't notice the late hits. I mean, obviously, the Bucs got called for 2 roughing the passers. I think one was just he went low. I don't remember if the other one was late or low or whatever. So I don't know. I don't recall seeing a lot of. Yeah, it's hard to see it live. I didn't watch the broadcast replay, so I'm the broadcast replay. I'm sure you get a lot of those, but I don't know. I think the Bucs played a cleanish game, but Goff did. I mean, took a beating. 10 quarterback hits. It's a lot. St. Louis Cards.
I was going to say the interior was not playing their best.
No, they certainly weren't. St. Louis Cards followed us and subscribed. Can we be certain that you're the St. Louis Cards and not the Arizona Cardinals trying to infiltrate? And you're subscribing to the Twitch channel to lull me into a false sense of security. I'm on to you, St. Louis Cards. Shout out to the Tigers and their wild card chase. It's exciting times, but also try not to have games on game day for the Lions.
Don't worry, it doesn't affect everybody's parking. Do you know who I rode the shuttle back with?
I do.
Every single PR person at the Lions was on the shuttle with me. Every single one. Going to the garage.
Wait, Eamon too?
Yes. Yes. And Eamon was unfamiliar enough that he didn't remember what floor he was on, and I offered to give him a ride to try and drive him around to find it. Because
strengthened your relationship with them. You're welcome.
Well, but dude, this same thing I did the first day. I went into the wrong garage, and then it was on the wrong floor, and then the one garage, they have one elevator that goes floors 1 through 3, and then another elevator next to it that goes floors 4 through 7. And so, like, if you don't take the right elevator, like I didn't, you have to start walking up flights. It's not great. Not a great garage if you're unfamiliar with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's interesting
I've made enough mistakes that I know.
The garage that I parked in was way less crowded than normal.
Shocking. Because everybody else followed the rules except for a cheater.
I know I'm not the only one. I'm just throwing it out there. All right. Joshua Mercer, another 100 bits, says, after seeing us with just under 2 minutes, 3 timeouts, and only down by 4, hurt pretty bad, though. Yeah, right. I mean, you go watch what Atlanta did to the Eagles last night. You're like, shh.
I was telling Laura, I took when I was going through like the betting lines, I said there's 6 teams that I think are better teams than their opponent that I think should absolutely win, and 4 of them lost. like that's how
season,
crazy of a week it was, right?
Yep. Loveline69, they give it 15 months, says people were crying last year after week 2. Dan will have these boys rock hard and ready to roll.
That was the first thing that I thought of, was they lost to Seattle and everybody lost their mind last year.
Well, me, honestly, this feels to me more like the midseason lull last year. Like when they lost to the Bears, they weren't very good against the Packers, where it's just like the offense didn't look right. They'd hit a slump. They'll pull out of it. They'll have these slumps and they'll pull out of it. I was talking to Ty Schalter, and I think his piece is going to focus on this a little bit, so I don't want to spoil it too much. But it's like, people question the Chiefs offense like every single year this time of year. Like, I don't know. Patrick Mahomes doesn't look like he normally does, you know. What?
Well, last year when they lost to the Lions, they questioned him.
Right.
Does he have the weapons?
Has the league figured him out? Like all this sort of stuff that we're hearing right now with the Lions.
Right.
And it's just like, let him settle in, man. I know there are some teams that are red hot to start, right? Like the Saints are really exciting, and the Cardinals had a really exciting game, and the Bills are 2-0. sometimes it comes firing out of the gate. Sometimes it doesn't. And I don't know. Y'all got to be patient. And I know it sucks in the meantime. And I know losing to the Bucs could hurt this team down the road, right? You lose an NFC game. You lose to a team that could be, dare I say, a competitor for the 1 seed. We don't know yet. And now you don't have that tiebreaker.
Well, the nice thing is the Saints are playing well, and so
beat up on each other.
The
Bucs
a little might bit. Be Well, I mean, if they win the division, Bucs are a wild card, and it doesn't even matter. So,
well, that's assuming the Lions aren't a wild card.
No, they're gonna be all right.
All right, let me
start printing up your NFC North champs banners.
Wow, jeez. 100 bits from Nick the Greek says Bill Belichick apparently said that Eric Schmidt is enjoying the fruits of Carlos Monterez's labor.
I don't know who that guy is, but he sounds like he shouldn't be reading that part of the Free Press.
You did see what Bill Belichick said, right?
I saw Dave's tweet.
Yeah.
Which did make sense to me because they've completely overhauled the roster, save like one player that was drafted during his time. But whatever, sure.
I got sucked in, and I won't call it clickbait. It was, he was just basically saying they've built a good offensive line over the past decade, and I don't know.
That's Bob Quinn.
Yeah, that's 100% Bob Quinn, and the only
That's not Matt Patricia. Patricia didn't do shit.
Right. They drafted Frank Ragnow while Matt Patricia was there.
Both of them were there.
Yes.
Well, whoop-de-doo.
But everyone else was either drafted after Matt Patricia or before him under Bob Quinn. So Bob Quinn, I would say the Lions are enjoying some of the fruits of that labor. I think that's fair to say.
There you go.
Matt
Give
Patricia.
Credit where credit's due, man. Right. He was on your organization as well.
Yeah. Yeah, right?
Matt Patricia. Get out of here.
Well, only one of them is employed by an NFL team at this point, so I think, right? Bob Quinn's with the Browns?
Sounds about right.
Something like that. Another 100 bits from Nick the Greek says the machine is too much man for any one woman. He's also man enough for another small man. What do you mean by that? 100 bits from Josh Burster says St. Louis Cards.
Like Oompa Loompa. He thinks I'm Willy Wonka. No, I'm not calling you an Oompa Loompa.
But I think you just kind of inadvertently did, though.
No, I don't think he was implying. Nick is not the type of guy to make any subtle, he's not trying to imply anything. He's just
never
throwing his comments out there.
Never.
Yeah. Nick's a good guy.
I forget. I'm gonna have Brad Galley to blame forever for revealing to people that I'm 5'9", which I wasn't trying to keep secret. But apparently, when you stand next to a 6'2", 6'3" guy, whatever Brad Galley is, it
start saying he's 6'9". Just say he's 6'9".
I forgot he's actually 7'2".
Yeah. I didn't know.
Josh Mercer on a bit says St. Louis Cards, hit me up, bro. I just moved to St. Louis. Are you still here, St. Louis Cards? I know it probably wasn't the official St. Louis Cards. It was like St. Louis Cards 2006. What? But either way. Exactly, Omnom. 5'9" is average. People just freaking out. Kneecap Salad 100 bits says I bet the things I think I know from First Bite as part of a parlay as a parlay last week, and it hit big. Thanks. Love the wow. That's great. Okay, so I remember mine was just Baker Mayfield interception, which was probably my least bold of the one thing I knows in a while. But I'm glad I didn't pick more than one because he only threw one. If I'm not mistaken, Ledyard said 3 Aiden Hutchinson sacks, which hit in the first quarter.
Jeez, what's wrong with him, man? Way to underestimate Hutchinson.
I don't remember what Ryan's was, though. You must remember Kneecap Salad or anyone else who's a Pride of Detroit Direct subscriber. Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but if someone remembers, I'm curious now because we got to talk about that on the next First Bite. Joshua Mercer, another 100 bit says, I'm a Padres and Tigers fans though, so Machado is better than Arenado. Baseball. Both out of our purview. All right, Lei Fang asks, okay, so the green dot is just a sticker. Each team is allowed to have 3 players with a radio in their helmet, but only allowed to have one on the field, so Rodrigo probably has 2 helmets he switches back and forth. Yes. I think that's typically how it goes.
Same thing with Jack.
And probably Alex, honestly.
Alex always has the green.
Oh.
Like, if Alex is on the field, Alex is making a call. That's pretty much the way it is. It's just they need to have a body when Alex is not on the field, and it's going to be either Jack or Malcolm.
Goff 300 yards passing. There you go. That one didn't hit by much, right? He was just at like 309-ish or something.
307.
There you go. But look at that. Another reason to be a Pride of Detroit Direct subscriber. Full access to First Bite. And apparently our one thing you think you knows are hitting this year, except for the one I did in week 1, which was like Sam Laporta 8 catches. Went a little too bold there and not even close.
Can I tell you when one of my prop bets was I'm on route over 6.5 catches. Mm-hmm. And I did note in there that if you liked going over 100, Jeremy Reisman liked it in his Saturday. Was it Saturday or Friday? Whatever.
Question of the day.
Yeah,
I think it was Saturday.
Yeah. And I linked to that. So you hit that one too.
Just don't look at my score prediction.
No one got score prediction, right?
No. All right. We'll still hang around for a minute or two here and answer any more questions from our live audience. We do have a full slate of questions for the second half here. So, there was one that I had for the break that since last week we did a little bit of a film breakdown. Maybe you wanted to do it again here. Someone asked, can y'all choose a couple of the most head-scratching play calls and try to read Ben Johnson's mind?
Gosh.
Do you have one? Like maybe a red zone? Because I went over and I did not watch the entire offense from Sunday, but I went and watched the red zone, every red zone snap, and then I watched I almost said Jeff Okuda, Jesus. Terran Arnold rep, just because I wanted to get an idea of how he did. Is anything come to mind?
I don't know if I have a head scratcher because I tend to just try and block those out of my memory. Honestly.
Let's look at one of the red zone plays that
I mean, you want a successful one or you want a failed one?
Okay. I mean, yeah, because they said a head scratcher. So let's look at a failed red zone play.
Then pick a screen.
Okay.
Pick a screen, Tom. Because those failed.
Yeah, let's look at that negative 4-yard play on one of the fourth quarter drives.
I used that NFL Pro for Hutch, my breakdown on Hutch to get the different angles.
Yeah.
Super helpful.
It's fantastic.
Ironically, I was surprised. I was surprised they only when they broke them up into sacks, his half sack didn't fall under the sack category. I had to go find that one manually.
Oh,
but
that's kind of a weird.
I don't know why, because it literally says sack on it. So yeah, I don't know why that was like that.
Where is it? It was a Gibbs, right? Like a Gibbs.
Yes, Gibbs screen left.
Receiving this should...
in the red zone, I think probably.
I found it. All right. Let's take a look at it. What went wrong? Maybe what he was thinking.
Okay.
So down in distance, just so we're aware, it's 1st and 10. This is the only, if I'm not mistaken, the only time the Lions started a red zone trip out, closer than the 18-yard line. So they're in good position here. Is this right after the end around play? I think it might have been.
I can only see it on the feed. I can't see it on ours.
Oh yeah, let me share it with you. Sorry.
Because I'm on the delay a little bit here.
Let me just share it with you so you don't have to do that.
Thanks.
There you
Okay, good. I'm in.
go. Okay. All right, let's first look at the formation. So you got JMO and Amon-Ra here. I do like stacking them sometimes. They had a lot of success actually doing that before, where Amon-Ra would clear out space for JMO. Maybe it's less of a secret now. You do have Sam Laporte as your other guy out wide there, and you got Brock Wright in line. So
they're not really you're not fooling anyone really. They're just going to play a zone because you can see they got one really far off corner.
Yeah.
And then they're shading one of their Mike that over to that side because Brock's also on that side. You got your pass rusher that's probably coming, and then your safety up top. The other one is you got 3 on that side, so they're not overly worried about overloading that side. And then on the left, you've got more. You've got the Will, you've got the strong safety, and you've got a corner over the top of Sam. So they've actually got one more guy on the left than they do on the right.
Interesting. No zero pre-snap motion, so you're not. So
right off the bat, both
Sam
and
drops.
The safety sees it too. And that safety right behind the Sam, he sees it. His initial step is to his right. Yep. So he's waiting. He's waiting on the crosser for Sam to come into his zone, but he's literally looking through to Gibbs because that's where he can see that Goff is already targeting. He doesn't watch his first step. His first step, that free safety, his first step is to his right.
He's watching it. I mean, look, he's closing in already.
Yep. See, to the right. Boom, right there. So he's playing that he's going to run after Gibbs, but he's holding for Sam. No, there you go. And he takes Sam, and then the other one barrels down. So they had it covered. They had both those plays on that left side covered.
Yeah.
Because again, it's you overload that side a little bit. The reason you can drop, I assume that's Tryon. You can drop him is because you blitz the linebacker, the off ball, and that's something that they do all the time. And so the fact that they had more guys going to that side means that was doomed from the beginning.
Yep.
So just shift.
This is a little bit of like playing rock, paper, scissors. You threw rock, they threw paper, and it was never going to work. I don't necessarily think there's anything fundamentally wrong with this play call. It's just you got unlucky, right? The edge on that side dropped into coverage, which, I mean, it ends the play already. There's no way
versus 2.
Yeah, exactly.
With no blocker.
Because Sam's not even blocking out there. He's just running.
He's running his route. Yeah, he's trying to run off both DBs, but they're playing a little split zone. So the corner passes off to the safety, and then the corner can shift down. The Sam's already going after him. Look at both guys.
Yeah,
already on their way down. Even the safety is eyeballing that's where the ball's going. And so all 3 guys, I don't even know if Sam can. I mean, if Sam turns, maybe he chips that guy, but then you're asking Gibbs a beat too. That play is just doomed.
I do wonder if there's any culpability here on Goff to like see that right away.
He should.
Yes. He's looking right there, right? 100%. Like, look at where his head is. He sees that guy drop into coverage. Does he go off it there? Should he go off it there?
What I would have liked to have seen is your vulnerability now is at the hashes in the end zone. And so you look down at JMO. JMO's going to go up, and then if he cuts in to run, like if he runs a post, he's going to be over the top of that linebacker underneath that safety. And look at the passing lane down the middle.
Yeah,
that's a huge passing lane.
Yeah.
So I don't know what JMO runs, but if it's a post, that's what he should have looked at. It is a post, right?
It is. It's not a very well run.
And the only reason that linebacker and safety start moving towards that side of the field
because the ball's
already out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If that ball's not out and JMO runs that post, look at all that space back there.
Yeah. It's a good point. and
so
this kind of feeds into right. This feeds into what I think both of us said at the very end of the game, like right after it's over, is like Goff was just like hurried. everything felt forced and too quick with him. And like, maybe there is that one step from Tryon where he steps in right there. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe that's, he's still looking right at him.
Yep.
And
it's all picked up. Line picks it up. He's got
he's got time. Look, he's got plenty of
clean pocket.
And another bad tendency he had in this game. Look at how he's throwing the football.
Oh, he's off his back foot. Yeah.
Like what?
Leaning away.
And ball placement.
You lose your zip on the ball too, so the ball's not getting there.
Right.
Fast.
Look where the ball is.
Just fading. Yep, behind him and his hip.
Yep. You throw him ahead,
loses momentum. Yeah.
Right. If you throw him ahead, he has a chance to make this guy miss and at least gain a couple yards. But now,
tell you what,
he's flat-footed, has no shot.
All right. So go back a couple ticks.
We'll just start over.
Here's your variation. Here's what you can do off of this. Now that you've put this out there, a little bit more. A little bit more. Right there. Okay. So this would be like, let's say you pump fake it. You have two spots now. If you want to pump fake that you can go to. One is you can bring Laporta over the middle into the soft zone,
Jesus, look at all
vacated,
this.
And then JMO doing he's got to be running a hard post. And then you have your layered middle spots, right? So this is a play that you can show again.
Yep.
To to another opponent, and then have two variations or two options that you can go to out of that same look. So hopefully they're able to build off this look.
That's a good point, because I think like any sort of little double move here by Sam Laporta is a touchdown, right? Mm-hmm. Because you get everyone collapsing on Gibbs here. Obviously, let's roll it back to when he's actually
even
about to let
he
it go.
throws it.
Right,
Yeah.
Pump fakes. Already momentum going forward for all these guys. If Sam just turns it upfield here, there is no one. Absolutely no one. Now, JMO's a little bit tougher.
Easy double move.
JMO's a little tougher.
He's got to go across.
He's got to go across, and all these defenders are going to be moving to that side of the field where he's cutting.
But if JMO also knows this is a screen, he's running his routes to try and occupy those guys. If he knows he's the target, he's going to be at 4-2 by the time he hits that 5-yard line, right? Like he's going to be gone. And so good luck going from that flat-footed stance to a rolling JMO into that route. You're not going to catch him. Like he's going to be at the L by the time you just have to throw it to that L and he'll be there. So you got two variations that you can run off of this that,
like even hitting someone like Brock Wright, if you're going to fake it too, right? Like that's going to draw everybody to that side.
Amon-Ra runs a little bit of a screen here, right? Like he runs into because that linebacker is trying to get to Brock. But look, even with them leaving early, JMO's going to get across that line before they do.
Yeah,
he's already shutting it down.
Yeah. Anyways, I think that's and listen, like this is probably setting something up in the future like this, right?
Sure.
It'd be nice if it succeeded because people might, because then it would really be effective in replicating it again. But
the thing is Gibbs is enough of a threat that you have to account for him in that play. So
anyway, that's your film breakdown of the week for the non-podcast viewers. I think that's fun. I think we should try to do that, at least one play a week during these. Because you know what? When I watch film, I watch it all by my lonesome. I don't get to talk with someone else with it. All right. Time to get back into it, I think. Time to get back into it. Let's get back into it. Otherwise, Laura's going to kill us both. Okay. Welcome back to the midweek mailbag. Closing out things here for week 3. Let's jump right back into it. Ross Ginter asked the question, with Rakestraw inactive, were you surprised that Kindle Vildor came into play outside corner ahead of Khalil Dorsey?
No, I think Dorsey was running ahead of him all of camp, so I do think he had the early edge, but historically, Vildor has been the better player. And last year when they turned to Dorsey, it took a game before they turned to Vildor. And so no, it didn't surprise me because I kind of view them very similarly when it comes to defense. Special teams is, I think, what sets Dorsey apart. He's so good on special teams that I think he's the more valuable player overall. But as far as defense goes, no, it didn't surprise me that Vildor got out there first.
Yeah, I'm the same way, and I think part of that too is just like, you want a veteran out there, right? You're going up against 2 outstanding wide receivers. Yep. Don't go with the guy who hasn't played a lot of defense in his career. Go with the guy who's been out there a lot. And listen, I think it bears repeating that Kindle Vildor is not a bad corner. He's certainly not a bad cornerback 3 or 4. We all know what happened in the NFC Championship game, but the life of a cornerback is you're going to make mistakes. You're going to give up some plays. It's how your whole body of work looks. And Vildor wasn't great, but he didn't sink the ship.
Do you know who gave up the game-winning pass to the Falcons on Monday Night Football?
No.
Darius Slay.
Oh, that's right. I did know that. Yeah.
Like it happens. Even the best of them.
Yeah.
They get got.
He is 30 now though, like a little bit in the twilight of his career, but
he's still good.
Rakestraw, I think we both agree, Rakestraw would have been in the game had he not suffered his hamstring injury in warm-ups.
Yes, I think we saw that in week 1.
That's right.
When Terrion had to take a couple plays off, it was Rakestraw that saw the field, and when Davis had to take a couple plays off, it was Rakestraw that saw the field. So, yeah, I do think the timing of him pulling something in warm-ups was just too tight, where they couldn't figure out if he was going to be available or not, and had played it safe.
Yeah. Let's move back to the offense here. Brent Weber wants to know, how has Graham played since moving to left guard? Are Goff's issues tied to offensive line play?
That's a good question. I have not looked closely at Graham, but I do think I do think he's, when he has stood out, it hasn't always been positive.
Sure.
And so I'm going to say he has not played as well as I was hoping. I thought he played better against LA than he did against Tampa.
I agree.
But it's tough for an offensive lineman, because when you watch him live, you only see them when they make a mistake, right? Like that's so it's really a disservice to the lineman. So I do feel like he's not played as well, but again, that's just me with my biased live viewing to base that on, because I haven't watched the replay yet.
Yeah, and I mean, if you go by PFF grade, it hasn't been good. I look at pressures more than PFF grade. That's also not been particularly good for Graham. I think he was given about 1.7 pressures a game last year. He's given up, I think, either 6 or 8 so far. So well over his average. I think 6. Is that right?
7.
Oh, 7.
6 hurries.
6 hurries, 7 pressures.
Yeah. His pass block was pretty poor.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say, though, and I wrote about this kind of extensively today in the written mailbag, pressure rates for Goff are relatively equal to what they've been over the past few years. There's 2 things that are at play, I think, with Goff's tough play. One is that the pressure is coming from the interior more, right? The exterior blocking is a little bit better. The interior blocking is a little bit worse. And for a guy as immobile as Jared Goff, interior pressure is deadly, right? He's always been a not-so-good quarterback under pressure, sometimes one of the worst quarterbacks in the league that deals with pressure, sometimes just below average. Most of the time, I would actually say just below average. Last year, it was just below average. So far this year, just below average. When you look at stuff like EPA, when you look at stuff like passer rating, it's pretty much on par with what it was last year. Jared Goff under pressure, his performance. What's drastically different is his performance in clean pockets. Because last year, he was a top 5 quarterback in almost every statistical category with the clean pocket. This year, he's been awful. Awful, like bottom 5.
Well, look at the play we just watched in the break, right?
Sure.
He had a clean pocket, and he still threw off his back foot.
Yep. And so that's what I think happened a little bit in this past game is some of the interior pressure came, and it just got him a little jumpy. And it got him getting into bad mechanics. It got him making poor reads. It got him throwing inaccurate passes. And so, I don't want to go as far as saying he was seeing ghosts or anything out there, but it just wasn't him at his best when he's not pressured. And that's his superpower. That's what made him so special last year. It's what made him so special the last 2.5 years. And if he can't produce out of clean pockets, this team won't get anywhere. The good news is for 2.5 years he has. For maybe 1.5 games this year he hasn't. I have to imagine he'll correct the ship.
Against the Rams, the interior gave up 4 pressures, the 3 interior players. Against the Bucks, they gave up 9 interior pressures.
There you go. Not their best day. All right, let's move on. Back to the defense here. Swag Kazakazi asks, I thought they drafted corners that were tough at the line of scrimmage for a reason, so why so many free releases?
I think that's kind of like what we talked about at the top. Teams are doing a lot more zone, which means they're giving more drops, which means they're giving more free releases and trying to keep things in front of them, especially against the Rams. That was, I think, purposefully part of the game plan.
Yep.
Let them catch it, make a tackle, right? And so the physicality from these corners is they can tackle as opposed to they can jam. And I do think that they have the capabilities to jam, but you've played 2 experienced wide receiver groups against some young players in the secondary, save Carlton. And so I think they've kind of game planned more off coverage, and with that comes more free releases.
I am surprised though by the amount of zone that they've played, particularly this past week against the Bucks. And maybe that's again like they don't want to get beat over the top, and for the most part they didn't. Terrion, I think most people agree at this point he kind of blew the one up the left sideline there, but in general they haven't gotten beaten over the top like they did in previous years, and I think that's partially by design. But when Aaron Glenn comes out this offseason and is like, one of our fundamental defensive things is going to be playing man coverage, and you have these good man coverage corners, it's kind of surprising to see them come out and play a lot of zone and have, a lot of times they're playing these corners as part of like cover 3 or sometimes even cover 2 when you're bringing Brian Branch down. And again, it kind of plays into what we were talking about in the first half of this podcast, where you only have 4 defensive backs on the field, and they all kind of have to be able to do a little bit of everything. You have to play man coverage, you have to play zone coverage, you have to play in the flats, you have to play deep middle, you have to play boundary. Like, they're asking a lot of these corners, and I think maybe that's why you're seeing some early struggles from Terrion Arnold. Is like, it's a lot on him, and it's not just his bread and butter of line up against this dude and shut him down. If it was, I think we'd see him be a little bit better, but it would also make him and some of the other defensive players a little vulnerable to giving up the big play, which is clearly what they don't want to do right now.
With Terrion, I do think some of his mistakes are correctable as well. Especially like the pass interference stuff. Like, that's just, he's got to get his hands in the right spots, and letting your arm flail a little bit too high, hitting a guy in a face mask when you are in great position, like, that's correctable, right? Like, so I'm encouraged by what I've seen from Terrion. There is a learning curve that he still has to go through to make NFL adjustments, but I do think by the end of the season he's going to be, if he continues to develop properly like he has been, I think he has a real chance to be something special. I just
hope they play him in man more, because what I've seen from him there is very encouraging to me. I think he looks great in man coverage.
I do think the opponent thing is part of it. Like, I think that's part of the scheme of what they wanted to do.
Yeah. I mean, that's the danger of jumping to too many conclusions this early in the season. It's
Right.
just
Right.
so many
Because
specific game plans.
right, we won't know. I think we need to wait until the bye before we really are able to, and even then,
Right. We're only talking
who
about four
knows?
games.
Yeah, right.
All right. We'll close things out with this. Kind of turning the page to Carolina. The Cardinals. Dead Gamer asks, watching a QB escape and scramble for a gain is personally a top 5 football frustration. Baker did it a few times. He's only moderately mobile. With Kyler coming up, are we about to see our familiar Achilles heel exposed again?
Well, we know that the Lions don't like to use a spy.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to have to play fast and keep your lanes. You're going to have to do that, close the pocket and then crush the pocket as opposed to just cutting Hutchinson loose, which might be okay, honestly, because they have the thing that's really hurt them in the past has been their lack of ability to get interior pressure, right? They've gotten to edge pressure, lack of interior pressure. The quarterback escapes up the middle and away he goes. And obviously Baker had a couple of runs there. That one of them was designed, right?
Yep.
Touchdown was a design run. But I do think the whole contain and squeeze is going to be their approach to Kyler Murray this week. Kyler Murray has 57 yards against the Bills, 59 yards against the Rams, and he's a little jitterbug in there, right? He keeps his feet active, he stays loose, he gets out of the pocket, he keeps his eyes downfield, which makes you stay honest in your coverage, and then he's quick where if he gets in space, you have to be very disciplined, and so. Yeah, I do think that that's a problem, and I'm with Dad Gamer. It's a big pet peeve for me as well. Uh, but I think Kyler's going to get his yards. I think that's just part of what happens. It's I Aaron Glenn doesn't seem to have a really good answer for the mobile quarterback. You just have to hope that your talent wins out here.
Well, let me ask you a question. And I let me open this to everybody. Who does have a good plan for players like that? Because I haven't seen it. You just rattled off. He basically had 60 rushing yards in each of his first 2 games.
Yeah.
He's going to again. I'm sorry. Yeah. If that's the sort of thing that bothers you, don't watch this football game. Don't watch Kyler Murray ever play, because that's what's going to happen. There is no answer for that. You put a spy on who? You want to put Malcolm out there as a spy? We saw what Baker Mayfield did to him. Who has the speed to keep up with Kyler Murray in an open field way to make him to even funnel him somewhere? That's not.
You maybe got one guy and he's injured. That's iffy.
Right.
Right. Like he might be the only one.
But here's the thing. I don't. First of all, I don't buy that Baker was a problem last week. They sacked him 5 times. And one of their only he had 2 big scrambles, and then the design run was just. It was again one of those things where I think the Lions threw rock, the Bucks threw paper. It was a bad play call against a good play call, and they got exposed.
Mm-hmm.
But my goodness, they were on Baker Mayfield all night, all day, and one of his big scrambles was because they freaking tackled. I almost called him Snacks. What is wrong with me tonight?
DJ Reader.
DJ Reader. Their game plan 100% is going to be exactly what you said, which is just squeeze the pocket. You know why that's going to be their game plan? It's their game plan every week, and they're actually kind of good at it now.
Mm-hmm.
But Kyler Murray, some of these other guys, they're just extreme athletes that if they have good vision and, like you said, their ability to keep their head downfield and not just tuck and run, because if you tuck and run, you turn into Justin Fields, and then you get injured, and then you don't know how to read coverage. It's unfortunately, Kyler Murray is the perfect blend of both, where keeps his eyes downfield, has incredible arm strength, and can run. It's going to happen again in this game, and you're going to have to deal with it because every single defense doesn't have an answer for this.
He put up those pass rush or those rushing yards on 5 carries in each game. Like it's not like he's running the ball
Right.
like, 50 times. Like he is he's scrambling when the pocket breaks down.
Yeah.
So they're not going to dedicate a spy to him all game for 5 rushes. Like they're just going to have to like hope that they when he does scramble they can wait it out and get him.
Yeah.
So I'm not expecting a much different approach than what we've seen when they face mobile quarterbacks. Um, the hope is your linebackers are fast enough to get to him if he does break the contain.
Honestly, like my hope is just with the explosive plays, the 2 or 3 or 4 that he's going to have on Sunday, you have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 sacks to go with it. Because those are they're literal drive enders. I mean, what, 3.5 of Hutchinson's 4.5 sacks were on third down? That's what you need. He's like, okay, Kyler's going to extend a couple drives where he pulls some magic. But as long as you end those drives or end some other drives, you're going to get an opportunity to take the lead. And that's that. Like, I'm sorry that the league has become impossible defensively. It has with these mobile. I mean, why do you think everyone is chasing these mobile quarterbacks still? It's because they are a cheat code. They are a cheat code. And I think the Lions are more prepared than ever to deal with that. And I actually think last week is a good example of it.
So Baker had 34 yards rushing. Okay. And on his 5 sacks, lost 39 yards.
There you go. You broke even.
Came out 5+, 5 in the black.
I really do. And listen, I also know that Baker Mayfield got out of the pocket and made some throws, right? That to me is a little bit more dangerous because you're asking your defensive backs to hold up longer and you can hit on more explosives. Yep. And unfortunately, Kyler Murray can do that too. Baker Mayfield can too. And that's why I also take a little offense to the question saying Baker is only moderately mobile. Go back and watch what he did to Washington in week 1. I understand Washington's a terrible defense, but go look what he did to them. It was much worse than how the Lions handled them.
So I don't. Okay. Someone asked in the press conference or in the locker room pressers, like after in the scrums after the game, they asked Hutchinson. The question was, Baker's not known for being mobile, and I was like. And I kind of did like a double take with my and then I'm realizing that where I was positioned is I was on camera and I'm like, I hope I didn't make a face. And I don't know if I did or not.
I literally asked Aaron Glenn a question about containing Baker Mayfield because I had literally just watched him tear up Washington's defense by maneuver. I mean, he is so good at maneuver. It might not be like all about speed and ability to get outside and stuff, but like he is so good at maneuvering into the pocket, finding space either to run or to just buy more time, and that is just as valuable, if not more, than just pure athleticism. So sorry, I got on my soapbox a little bit there. I know like everyone thinks Aaron Glenn is the devil for not using a spy, but show me a defense that is consistently good against a mobile quarterback, and I'll shut up. Because I don't think it's out there.
The only quarterback I would even consider spying is Lamar, right. and Kyler's not Lamar, and look, he's played well, and that's great for him. But it's going to be a tough matchup. But I thought this defense improved, and so if they can take another step forward, great. I think having Reeder is massive. And he's going to get better. And then, we'll see what happens after that. It's nice when you have an edge rusher who can pressure and get home too. So,
yep. All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you all for listening to the Midweek Mailbag. Just a programming note. Next week is going to be the last Midweek Mailbag of the month. That becomes a subscriber only episode of the Midweek Mailbag. So if you want access to next week's Midweek Mailbag, go subscribe to Pride of Detroit Direct. You can go to prideofdetroit.com/subscribe to get access, but we'll have all of the other podcasts as normal, the new, what are they calling it? The Purview podcast for our defensive or our preview podcast, the POD cast, all of that stuff is remaining for free on all of our podcasting platforms where you get podcasts. But until next time, for Erik, I'm Jeremy. Thank you all for listening. It's chaos. Be kind.
Recording stopped.
That Purview's clever. It's not as good as the main show, but whatever.
I had someone email after they decided on this. Mind you, I was not involved in this decision, and I didn't even know they had made this decision. I got an email the next morning after they make this that I think just read, "Lions don't purr." It's like, oh, okay. I'm sorry. What are you, Jack Handy? Is that the right name? I don't think that's the right name. Laura says she has photographic evidence of you making this face.
Yeah, I got sent a couple pictures of me being on the Fox camera, and some of them were nice. The one Laura had us a couple. The one that Laura took is basically me doing my serious look, which kind of looks like I'm like bothered.
That's right. Laura, if you can text me. I'd be more than happy to show it on stream. The Zoe, it's called Brave. Brave is the browser, the browser app on your phone that will play YouTube audio when you lock your phone. If you want to do that for Pride of Detroit Direct. Brave, Brave. Oh, I'm not in. We have to be in the off air so that you can see the chat. Oh man, it is so good.
Jeremy, I literally just texted you.
That is amazing. Amazing. Profile pic?
Hold on. We're gonna play that game.
Oh no, what did I do?
I hope I didn't delete it. I'm gonna try and find it now. I think I might have deleted it. Here we go.
Sometimes, I come up to a scrum late, and I'm like, I don't bother.
Your recorder's not on. You're just listening.
I'm just listening because listen, sometimes I just like to listen to guys talk and pick up stuff from there, and if they say something interesting, the beat is nice enough where I can be like, hey, I didn't get Terry and Arnold audio. Do you mind sharing that with me?
There were some good pictures of me too that I didn't look like angry.
Angry. Joshua Mercer is giving us a baseball lesson via bits. 100 Bits says, put in perspective, Arenado is the media darling that the supposed best third baseman in baseball. The supposed best third baseman. My daughter roasted some older guy at Busch Stadium at our first Cards home game after Machado hit a 2-run home run. The old guy said, he isn't that good. My daughter said, well, that looked pretty good. She's 7, so it was hilarious, and even the older guy's voice started cracking up. Also, to add a little context, she knows that I like Machado, so she chants Machado at every Padres game we go to. The guy said that after she said Machado is the best best defensive third baseman in baseball, I greatly appreciate how much she pays attention to what I'm interested in. That's got to be super cool, honestly, to have your daughter be as into as a hobby as you are. That's super cool.
At my house, I tend to gravitate to my office after dinner. And I usually put football on my little. I have a television. I have a television screen right here, and then I have my laptop, and then my a second screen, right? And there's a chair off in the corner, and so after dinner, I come in here, and I'm usually trying to get something done, and one of my daughters comes in and sits either in the chair or at her desk and just kind of like watches football with me for like an hour and a half, like pretty much every night, like clockwork. It's kind of cool.
That's fun. Zazu doesn't like football. All right, I think we're winding things down here. I don't see a lot of questions in the chat, and YouTube's not here, so I don't know. You guys got anything else before we get out of here? Thanks for your patience today. I certainly didn't have the patience, but we got through it. Appreciate Erik's patience because he's on a much stricter schedule than I am, particularly on Tuesdays when I actually feel like I have a relatively good amount of, I won't say free time, but time to catch up.
I wrote a couple things, so try to get ahead of the game a little bit.
I
did a little research.
There you go.
On these are my coaching notes on Tampa's coaching staff, and I wrote a open thread preview already for Thursday. I tried to be as productive as I could.
There you go. Now we're ahead of the game.
We say that, and then that's when we
Right.
let up, and then it's like Thursday. It's like, oh no. All right.
Yeah. It's like, Jared Goff on IR. Kidding. I'm not throwing now. Kidding. Relax, everybody.
I am interested to see the injury report tomorrow. That thing has the potential to be kind of long. Just little nicks and dings all over the place. Where it feels like.
Yeah.
A couple guys should come off the injury report. A couple guys might come on the injury report.
Right.
So,
like, I think the guys I'm looking at particularly is obviously Alex Anzalone,
Amon-Ra. Terrion had a finger, and Ennis has a hamstring. Those were the injuries.
Those are new ones, yeah.
In game, yeah. Those are the new ones.
Also,
keep an eye on.
Davenport is he gonna start with a limited? Is Iffy? I mean, they didn't put Iffy on IR, which I think is maybe a good thing. Should be a good thing, but we didn't make a bet. We've been making bets every show. We got to make another bet. I'm 0 for 2.
Well,
I'm getting spanked.
Wow. Did we adjusted our I don't think we even told people what the bet was this week.
No, well,
right?
we had 2 because we
didn't. Yeah, but
I took a shot.
Moore thing
I took a shot in the dark with CJ Moore, and then I completely forgot that they wanted a veteran kicker. Who, wow, that did a lot. That did a lot.
Maybe
of help.
CJ Moore will come back.
I'm not betting it anymore because I don't know if you saw that they worked out the nickel/safety. No, from the undrafted one that they had earlier in camp, but they gave the injury settlement to. What's his name?
I'm blanking on him as well.
Chad, help us out. You know who we're talking about. But anyways, they worked him out today, which makes me think it must have been an extremely short injury settlement because they cut him a month ago. Maurice Norris.
Oh yeah, Norris was telling me he was hoping to get back on practice. That's why or at practice like that week. That's why I was surprised he got that injury settlement.
And I think he's been around. Like I feel like I just saw him somewhere. I don't. Could he have been in the locker room? Is that even allowed?
I don't think so.
I feel like I've maybe like in a Terrion Arnold because I know like him and Arnold were pretty close. So maybe just on social media or something. So they worked him out today. I would not be surprised to see him on the practice squad tomorrow because now they have an open spot.
Yeah.
You do have to wonder at what point they signed Tim Patrick to the 53.
Yep. I don't know what they're going to do. Like someone asked who they're going to cut for Patrick, and I don't like to speculate on that.
Yeah.
But
not really.
it's hard. Like and you have injuries. It's some positions where you have depth, you have injuries. The only position that really seems overloaded is linebacker, but that you just claimed a guy off waivers
Right.
to bulk that group up that you have. So like, I don't think there's like a clean spot, right? Like they have a couple positions that have a little bit more depth than they may need.
Yeah.
Linebacker, offensive line, like
It's
it's
actually pretty
possible. But
hard. Like if I were to come
yeah,
up with a name that would make a lot of sense, you'd have to look at like the inactives list, but a lot
and
of
it
those
won't
guys aren't
be.
moving.
It'll be something. It'll be something dumb like they put Iffy on IR, right? And then
Right.
they're like, right? It'll be something silly like that.
I mean, maybe it could be
Um,
a Pecco situation where they're like, "Hey, just sign back to our practice squad" type of thing.
ooh, that'd be hard on him.
That
I
would
think
suck.
he'd get tired. He'd get tired of that pretty quick. Yeah, it's not a fun exercise to try and guess,
Yeah.
and it's you just hope that whoever does get released that they find their way back with the team, and then other opportunities come along,
Yeah.
right? For whatever reason.
It is. It
So
is. It is fascinating to think about how hard it is now, and then to consider at some point they're probably going to want Christian Mahogany on the roster. At some point, they're probably going to want Emmanuel Mosley on the
Broderick
roster.
Martin,
It's a
Broderick Martin.
Oh God, I forgot about Broderick Martin. And like, there's some cuts to be made. And I, I hate to say
Yeah.
this, but it's this is likely true. Some of that stuff will play out itself. Like there are going to be some guys that get injured that are going to probably go on IR. That's going to settle some of those decisions for them. But if it doesn't right away, there's some players that they may have to cut that they won't get back still.
Well, that's what happened with Nowoski,
Right.
right? Like that's how they lost him the first time.
Yep.
So that's how they lost Starling Thomas, who they will see this week.
Is he starting still?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. How's he been doing?
Yeah.
Now I want to look at his PFF stats.
I think they're pretty good. Like in I think they're in the high 60s. So
That's way better than it
acceptable.
was last year. It was tough
Mhm.
sledding as it would be for any undrafted rookie. Oh yeah, 67. Look at that. Look at our Starling Thomas.
Yeah. I'm sad I'm not making the trip to Arizona. It would have been nice to say hi to him.
He has given up 3 receptions on 7 targets for 35 yards. Has a pass breakup.
It's acceptable for him.
That's very good. Is he playing safety?
He is they run like they have two guys. So like Sean Murphy Bunting plays outside, but then they use Garrett Williams and Starling as the opposite, but also in the slot. So both guys can kind of do both. And so I think technically Starling is listed as their outside starter and Williams is listed as their nickel, but they can both kind of play inside out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he likes to do that. That they like to move their guys. Okay, they have 22 players. Sorry, 20 players. Because a couple of them were inactive. They played 20 different defenders last week on defense, not on special teams, on defense. So like they rotate their guys on defense a ton.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. Like some of their guys that are like starters, you would expect to play more, and it was like I was shocked how much they played like half a game, and their backup played like half a game, and it was like, holy cow. Yeah, Julian Aguara got on the field last week.
Julian, is he on their practice squad and just got the elevation, or is he on their?
He's on their. Regular.
He's on their 53.
So, Julian, Starling, Matt Prater, all former Lions.
Don't bring up Prater.
Mm-hmm.
Don't bring up.
Well,
Prater.
I can't help it. He's on their team.
I know I shouldn't be salty about that, and I should get over it, and also understand that they probably weren't going to spend that much on a kicker when they knew they were going to suck. But I'm still kind of sad about it. They ended up spending more on the kicker position trying to find his replacement. I can't believe he's under 53.
Yeah, he's their
He's-
fifth edge. They run like those jack like kind of hybrid edge rushers on both sides. So they run like a 3-4, but it has all those 3-4 concepts. But then
Yeah.
they run, between 3-man front, 2-man front type of thing.
Yeah.
Last year, go ahead.
I was just going to say he did originally sign to their practice squad, but was promoted last week. Not
Last
elevated,
year
promoted.
You're right. Last year they ran more like 3 down linemen with 2 outside backers, and then they would fluctuate between 2 off and 1 off, depending on if they wanted to be a nickel. And they really struggled against the run. This year they shifted to 2 backers, 2 off ball, and then between 3 and 2 down linemen when they wanted to go to nickel, and it's actually helped them be a little bit better against the run. So
I don't want to
it's
hear
gonna
that.
be interesting. Well, but I mean, okay, the Bills gave up 100, ran for 130 on them. Rams ran for 53, but even the Bills less than 4 yards per carry, like 3.9 yards per carry. That's not great. So I do expect the Lions to test it, though. You know what I mean? Like I expect them to say, all right, let's see what you got, because I think their down linemen can be got, especially with a good offensive line like the Lions have. So I do think they'll be tested.
The Lions are number 1, I think, in EPA per play running the ball so far this year.
Yeah, I expect them to lean into it a little bit more this week, because they seemed to get away from it last week on purpose, right? So
Yeah.
this was a bad defense last year, and they went up against a bad Rams offensive line because of all their injuries. Like everybody's continued to fall apart on the Rams offensive line last week.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I think they're going to let their big guys get off the ball and start pushing people around, try and run that ball a little bit more.
Yeah. I'm looking at the Bills too, and it's like the 3.9 a carry includes Josh Allen, who had 4 yards and 4.3 a carry. So their running backs were even less effective than 3.9 a carry. Anyways, we're rambling. I think it's time to get out of here. Thanks for everyone who stayed up late. I'm going to refund Justin saying your Zazu request because I think he is dead asleep somewhere. But thank you for sticking around. We'll be back live. I believe the plan for the Purview podcast is Thursday evening, so that's the next time we'll be live on this Twitch channel. I won't be part of it, but plenty of Lions content for you there. I'll be live for the Madden Sim Saturday morning per usual, and then we'll probably be live shortly after the game for the POD cast, since it's an away game, and I'll just be sitting here. It's a 4:30 kickoff, remember that, so we'll probably be live around 7:38-ish. I think that's all I got. Any last words, Eric?
No, I will have a newsletter update as well. Like after following the game, we'll have a video for that, and then and then you reminder about you already said about the midweek next week is behind the wall.
Oh, and the very last thing, I know we had sent out feelers for a watch party for this game. We're obviously not going to be doing it for this game, or we would have announced it by now. But there are plans not too far in the future that I don't want to announce yet because they're not official, but keep your eyes out for it. We do have plans in the working. So be patient with us there. Until then, though, y'all have a great night, and we'll see you guys soon.